We're going to start this morning's Education Committee as a subcommittee. What I'd like is, it gets very noisy up here when people speak to each other. So if you have conversations, I would appreciate, if you need to talk to somebody in the audience, to take it outside and then come back so that we can hear the authors that are presenting and the witnesses either in support or not in support. It just helps us a whole lot. Again, I don't want to shut people off, but I'd like, if there are lots of witnesses, to have just the first couple speak at length, and then the rest of the witnesses just, unless you have something quite unique to add to it or new to add, just your name, organization. But we'll try to allow as much give and take and discussion as possible. With that, we know we're going to skip, I believe, to item number 28, Assemblymember Lara, who special allowance. I'm glad the other Assembly members that are here understand that Assemblymember Lara needs to, even though we normally do everything in bill order, we're going to try to accommodate his schedule today. Welcome to the committee, Assemblymember.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your willingness to accommodate your schedule to hear this important bill. Before I begin, I just want to let you know I'm agreeing to the committee proposed amendments regarding the immunity from liability for the UC, CSU, and Community College. AB 844 will make it clear that all students, including AB 540 students, may serve in any capacity in student government at our CSUs, community colleges, and UCs, and that these students may receive any grant, scholarship, fee waiver, or reimbursement for expenses incurred in connection with their service to the full extent possible of the law. Student leaders are elected to their positions by their school's student body and provide an invaluable service for their schools and communities. I can tell you that firsthand as a former Associate Students Vice President at San Diego State University. It was a very fulfilling experience, and I just want to make sure other students, including AB 540 students, have that opportunity to serve and experience student government. As you know, however, recent events have raised concerns regarding whether a student leader is eligible to serve and receive funds allocated to their position due to their legal status. This event culminated with Fresno State Associate Students President Pedro Ramirez, and the need to clarify this in the law. The bill provides colleges and universities with much needed clarity and guidance in the administration of these funds. Also, in addition, many community college districts also require their student leaders to serve as members of the community college district trustee boards. However, AB 540 students currently are prohibited from serving on these boards and are not able to fulfill their student leadership obligation as mandated by their student body. AB 844 will enable, again, AB 540 students to serve as trustees, represent their districts, as long as they are elected by their peers to serve in this leadership capacity. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And good morning, esteemed members of the Senate Committee. My name is Pedro Ramirez. I am an AB 540 student, and I was elected to represent the students of CSU Fresno as a representative in the year last year, March in 2010, to serve in what was our centennial year, the 100th anniversary of Fresno State.
Well, congratulations.
And so it was a distinct, and I was honored and privileged to serve as a centennial president. And I'm here to support AB 844, not for me because I'm termed out already, I guess, but for other students, to allow the students, they pay money to represent, just like anybody here who pays taxes. They have the right, taxation or representation. And so we pay our fees, we pay our associated student body fees, and so they pay the fee, and that enables them to have a representative and also be represented themselves. And so this is what this bill does. It creates equity so all students who pay that fee are able to be a representative, so they can run and be elected and not have barriers. One of the barriers is being able to provide for your education. I wasn't able to get the salary, I guess, the compensation to serve as president. we do a lot of work. We're running a 501c3 nonprofit corporation with budgets that can range from as little as $500,000 to millions of dollars, and so it's pretty tough. We sit on several committees that administer and set and draft policies for the university. So we're there, and so just to give you a brief of what would be my daily day as president, I would have at least 1 or 2, maybe 3, sometimes 4 meetings to attend to. I would skip lunch, dinner, because I'd be drafting the policies, researching them, making sure that our administrators and faculty members didn't pull a fast one on us. Not that I don't trust them, but sometimes.
Talking to former faculty now.
Well,
yeah. Senator, we'll scratch that from the record, please.
right. But because we wanted to ensure that all the policies reflected the best interests of the student that we were elected to represent. And so it's hard work. It keeps us busy. And so this would allow students, whether they're AB 540, out of state, or what have you, to be able to serve in that capacity and just do everything.
What you're saying, and first of all, again, any student that engages in providing service to other students, we honor. And so we honor you for what you've done. And for me, once a student's a student, it doesn't make any difference where they come from or what's the rule. Once they're in and their fellow students accept and want them to be a leader, we should be supporting that. Other witnesses in support.
Jeanette Sinic-Batin, Legislative Staff Attorney with the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, also here in strong support. We think this is a critical step for California to take in terms of clarifying the law and allowing these students to continue to serve our state. Let us not forget, these are the best and the brightest that the state has to offer, and they're willing to make sacrifices to serve. To continue to serve our state. And so we think it's really critical that we clarify the law and allow them this benefit. It is a benefit that we are allowing under state law to continue to serve in student government and to be somehow compensated or awarded something for their time and effort. And another quick point, like I said, these students are the best and the brightest. A lot of them are class valedictorians, have amazing stories of tenacity, and it's an honor to be here and to sit here with Pedro and other students like him. So we are here in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Good morning. Erica Romero with the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities in support.
Thank you.
Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of a number of local community college districts, Glendale, Peralta, Rio Hondo, San Jose, Evergreen, San Diego, and Los Angeles. And I'll take your comments as my testimony in support and add on the trustee issue. We just recently had a student running for student body president and trustee of the local district. She was very well qualified student leader, found out halfway through the campaign that if she won, she couldn't serve as the district trustee. So we'd encourage your support and thank the Assemblyman for introducing this measure.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Tiffany Mock on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union in support.
Thank you.
Freddie Campos on behalf of the California State Student Association. We encourage support.
Thank you. Are there other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Not hearing any. Assembly member, we're operating as a subcommittee now. We're not able to have a motion on the bill, but as soon as we have a committee, we'll come back and we'll have a motion on the bill.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to close or say anything, just in closing.
Just respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Assembly Member Portantino, you can hobble up. You can do it. Won't help you with your bill, though, I have to tell you.
I was hoping it would.
Well, you got to try everything that you can.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Every year, legislators are asked to make statewide policy decisions for the 3 segments of higher education. The existing system-specific reporting structures do not tell us whether the state as a whole is on track with producing the college-educated individuals it needs to meet workforce demands. We need to meet workforce demands in the global information economy. AB 2 creates a higher education system that is more responsive to the marketplace and, I believe, better for the state of California. Although we collect extensive data, we have no overall context for what the data indicate. Being data rich and information poor, as policymakers, we do not receive the meaningful data and analysis necessary to make effective policy and fiscal decisions. This bill was first introduced by our good friend, Senator Jack Scott, back in 2008. Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed the bill because it lacked consequences. It was Senator Scott's contention then, and I agree with him, that given the budget crisis, fiscal penalties at this point would not be prudent, but to get the framework in place and the accountability measures in place first before we start financially penalizing people in this economy and at this time was not right. He disagreed with Governor Schwarzenegger, and I disagreed with that veto. Each segment of higher education separately engages in their own accountability measures, and as means of self-assessment and review, CSUs, community colleges, and UC collect data that is very similar to the requirements in AB 2. They have determined that these accountability measures are important and have developed their own segment-specific reporting goals. It's time that the state as a whole catch up. By using the information that is already being collected, California can reach 3 goals stated in AB 2. By 2020, California will be among the top 10 states in the educational pipeline. By 2020, California will be an average per capita income of the top 10 new economic states. And by 2020, California will provide in the top 10 for percentages of its age groups with degrees and certificates. This bill creates a task force and advisory body that will be the institutional memory and determine the next steps to take in improving higher education in our state. When Senator Scott, who was my nested senator, was termed out of office, I went to him immediately and asked his blessing to continue on his legacy, and so I always like to give him the kudos for bringing this forward and authoring this piece of legislation, and with his support and respect, reintroduced it so we can continue that legacy and fight for accountability in the state of California, and I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Witnesses in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Marlene Garcia with the California Community College Chancellor's Office. We've been supportive of this measure, and the measure has been introduced several years, and I think we've learned a lot about accountability, particularly in establishing goals for our state. So we're very supportive of moving along and pushing this issue. We think it's helpful in planning and creating more effective targeted use of resources and focusing on the kinds of outcomes California wants to see. I do think, though, there's other legislation in this similar to this that's also being considered in the legislature this year that raises similar questions, and I do think that this is an important time for us to evaluate what goals are appropriate for California. There are a number of organizations around the country that have identified goals, and I think an important responsibility for us is to figure out what goals are appropriate for us as opposed to others telling us what our goals should be, and then figure out how it connects with the national trend in terms of increasing completion and stronger outcomes for all of higher education. So I urge you to support this bill and that we continue talking about this important issue.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen Humphrey from the California Post-Secondary Education Commission, and CPEC has long supported this effort, been involved in the prior legislative efforts to do so. California has a great deal of positive work going on at the segment level, but there's yet to be a statewide framework for accountability, for identifying what the state needs and where it needs to go. We've agreed with this approach. It's a very collaborative approach to putting into place a real understanding of what the state needs and some roadmaps to how we get there. So we consider this very important. It's extremely consistent. The bill gives CPEC the role of measuring and managing the data, and we've long been collecting that kind of data, and it's long been part of our responsibility, but this is an updated and good approach to doing that. We also, of course, want to work with you on making consistent the pieces. We think that ultimately a framework for accountability and then eventually the implementation of all the work needed to get California's higher education systems where we all agree they need to be is critical work, particularly at this time and with the challenges to the economy. It's entirely consistent with what we're trying to take that larger look in CPEC around student success and those issues. So this is work that in many ways parts of the system have been working toward for quite a while. There has not yet been the statewide embrace of saying this is what the policymakers of the state of California believe is important. So we urge your aye vote and look for support and are very, very looking forward to working with this effort.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Good morning, Erica Romero on behalf of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. We're grateful that this accountability bill also disaggregates data by race and ethnicity so that we can ensure that all Californians are not only accessing higher education but graduating. We urge your support.
Thank you.
Nadia Real Carrillo with the University of California. The university has a supportive amended position on this bill we provided. We agree with the intent of the bill and obviously with the work of accountability and are happy to contribute to that discussion. We do have some suggested amendments that we provided the author, and we would just ask that as the bill moves forward and there's other opportunities to engage in conversations similar to the comments of our colleagues from the community college, that we can also be part of those discussions.
I'd just like to warn you that we're now moving through the second house, and so I do hope that you have discussions if you wish to kind of work out something pretty quickly, because if it's successful, then it goes, I think, back to appropriations, and so there's not a whole lot of time left. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Senator Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I congratulate you for your tenacity
It's a good bill.
continuing this effort. I think we all agree on the need for our higher institutions of higher learning to be accountable. But we're in such a kind of budget free fall. And as you know, the governor did recommend the elimination of CPAC. And I don't know whether or not the timing of this conversation is appropriate. I mean, I'm concerned about not only where you want to house this information, this data collection and this analysis. It's we're going through, I think, some reorganization of the entire higher education discussion. And CPEC in this form or another form might be part of that conversation, but it's, just we're kind of in uncharted waters. And so I just would be mindful of all of us in this consideration, whether or not we should really sit down and talk about this as a group of stakeholders and figure out how do we do this and get the signature of the governor to concur. That's my concerns.
If I could respond.
Well, let's see if there are any other members, because I would like you to respond. Not hearing any assembly member.
Yes, last year during the Committee on the Master Plan Review, which looked at the master plan, which looked at our commitment to higher education, this issue was discussed with both Assembly, Senate, all of the stakeholders, and it was considered, along with Senator Padilla's articulation bill, as the top. Those were the top two priorities of the Master Plan Review Committee, that the time is now to put in place the accountability framework. The time is now, given the financial crisis. I think it's more important than ever that we have the accountability framework in place and that we have goals and benchmarks that we then can evaluate, because I think it helps us as we allocate our resources to know we're meeting our goals and objectives and have a plan. So I think it's critical during this time of budget crisis and uncertainty that we put this in place, because I think it then helps us as times get better to know where we're going.
Yeah, I think that the senator was not in object to that part, but the senator did raise the issue that we want to get this bill signed.
Right.
We agree with the goals. We may have other reorganization taking place, including CPEC. Are you open to working to see?
Absolutely.
And that's really the question, because not that we're suggesting that we not use CPEC, but that may occur, because everything is on the table, and the question is, you might really want to convene or work with some of the stakeholders to understand what the alternatives just might be. Not saying that there is any reason more than we are going to go through a lot of changes. We just want you to be able to respond to those kinds of changes.
Absolutely. No, it's obviously this is the third time that I've brought this forward, and it's my hope to get a signature. And I know I remember Senator Scott, how disappointed he was when he didn't get a signature. I actually spoke to him on the day it was vetoed. And so, no, I want to craft this in a way where we get it signed, where we get the framework. And obviously, you're my joint author on this measure, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
And we look forward, and we're very supportive. Yeah. And in no way are we suggesting that CPEC not play a role, but we're just saying that every program is on the table right now, because, as we were all aware, the governor has vetoed the budget and has come back to us and said to us, I want a budget that's more sustainable. And that's where the legislature is right now. And so we're just asking you to be as flexible as we are.
Absolutely.
Thank you. If you'd like to close, we will not be able to have a motion now. As your joint author, I will certainly support the bill, but we do not have a quorum yet.
Yeah, when you have a quorum, respectfully ask for the aye vote, and I appreciate working with the committee staff and the senators to keep this ball moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I have another one.
All right, now we're going to, I believe, well, let's just go through. Item number 13 will be on consent, which is the child care contract. And we have, before we get there, item number 4, AB 91.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair and members, AB 91 requires the Chancellor's Office to establish a pilot program to increase the number of students applying for state and federal financial aid. It outlines parameters of the pilot program and requires the Legislative Analyst's Office to report to the legislature on the possibility of a statewide expansion. Under this measure, the Chancellor is required to pick up to 10 diverse campuses that volunteer to participate and target specified students who might benefit from federal financial aid. According to the Institute for College Access and Success, our community college students leave approximately $500 million in federal aid on the table, money that can be used to help them in their effort to get educated, and certainly injecting $500 million into the California economy would be welcome not only to the students, the colleges, but to the communities. It's unacceptable that we have a system where so much financial aid is not accessed by California's most needy college students, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I know there was strong support for this measure.
Witness is in support.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Marlene Garcia with the California Community Colleges, and we are in strong support of this bill. We think this bill dovetails nicely with the work of the Student Success Task Force, which in fact is looking at some of the most effective strategy to increase the participation rates of community college students getting financial aid. With regard to that $500 million figure that is said to students leave that money on the table, what it is by and large are the students who don't apply for financial aid at all. And we know that we need to do a better job, particularly in reaching part-time students who come onto campus, leave quickly, and those are the kinds of strategies that we need to examine, along with ensuring that BOG fee waiver students take advantage of all federal opportunities. So it's an opportunity for us to incentivize movement in this direction, and so we're in support of this bill.
Other witnesses in support.
Thank you, Mark McDonald, on behalf of local community college districts, Glendale, Kern, Los Angeles, Los Rios, West Kern, and Yosemite community college districts. And I would echo the remarks of my colleague and just note that it would help the community colleges look at various strategies that work in different regions, not, as we've said multiple times on various bills up here, particularly for community colleges. What works well in one region of California may necessarily not work well in another region, and this will help to gather best practices for different communities and then disseminate those to other community college districts, and we'd urge your support. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Committee, Bonnie Slauson representing the Community College League. The League is also in support of this measure. It supports many of the activities and recommendations of the League's Commission on the Future and their Vision 2020, which calls for an increase of 1 million students by 2020 completing their courses in community colleges for success. Thank you.
Good morning, Lori Najura from the California Student Aid Commission, and the Commission supports AB 91. We support the maximization of student financial aid and also student services in the financial aid offices. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Good morning. Michelle McKay Underwood on behalf of the San Bernardino Community College District, also in support.
Thank you.
Karen Humphrey, California Post-Secondary Education Commission. We support this bill.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses in opposition? Assembly member, I commend you again. I know this is a repeat. I mean, to me, the most shocking number was the analysis that we see that approximately 77% of students who are eligible for federal grants at four-year colleges apply for them, yet at community colleges something has gone amiss when we only have around slightly over 50% of those students applying. So there's a tremendous gap there. And hopefully that this will help us to understand where that gap is and to close that gap. And so I think it's a very important bill. Senator Liu.
A couple of things. This bill was vetoed last year, and has it changed any?
The governor has.
So we're just running it as the same opportunity. What prevents?
I think well.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say I think it's my hope that this governor sees the value of injecting $500 million into the economy and helping California's most needy students.
What prevents the community colleges from doing this already?
I think that's a question best asked of them.
Ms. Garcia.
We were trying to do this statewide. That was our original intent, was to just do it statewide because we think it's the right thing to do. Out of deference to the community college's budget crisis, we thought we would phase it in 10 campuses at a time, give sort of the success model a chance, let them work it through on their pace. And so that's why we're trying to be
You're doing
respectful.
a pilot program. So
Right.
what prevents the community college system to go ahead and do this anyway without this statute?
Well, it's very hard to do when you have not just, no new resources, but potential of declining resources. It's very difficult to think ahead and plan your way out of that. However, what we know is that's precisely what the Student Success Task Force is looking at. In a zero-sum game, how do you identify and reorganize to deal with the reality that we're faced with? We're also, as the Chancellor's Office, looking at ways for a program such as this, because it is such a priority and it is so important, that we might be able to leverage some outside philanthropic funding, and that would provide some incentive grants, not large grants, but to help colleges do the planning that's necessary to
So it is the planning at the local schools that is lacking, and you want to pick 10 campuses and allow them to figure it out, so to speak, and see what happens with best practices?
Well, I think I would say, I wouldn't say that it's lacking. I would say that it's right now a very difficult time for them because they're in the process of implementing a slew of new federal requirements. And then, for example, the Pell Grant, it was a year-round Pell Grant. Then they had to develop a program to implement that. And then this past spring, it was eliminated. So now they have to work at dismantling what they've already done. So they're in that mode of trying to just manage the basics of their job, but they do want to explore more innovative and strategic approaches to capturing those students who aren't getting financial aid. So incentive funding would probably be very helpful in getting some of them to do what they already want to do.
Okay, and this bill requires fiscal. It's marked fiscal, so.
Right, but we do have the full support of the Community College Chancellor's Office. It's viewed as an absorbable cost that will benefit not only the student, but the schools and the economy. So we're hopeful that the Fiscal Committee in the Senate sees it the same way that the Fiscal Committee and the institution saw it in the Assembly, because, frankly, we can't have our most needy students not accessing financial aid. It's an unacceptable situation. The system right now, which requires students to fill out 2 forms, is just not an efficient system. And the legislature needs to say that, and that's why this bill is necessary, and it will have a financial benefit.
I also think that the bill is, in part, can be looked at as necessary in that not only does it identify in these pilot programs the populations that the legislature says need to be served, but it also lays out real clearly what the legislature's priorities are in terms of goals. So it says, yes, it could potentially, should have been done or could have been done by community colleges. We want to support it, and we want to lay out both where we see it going and what are the legislative goals that we want to come back with.
And the financial benefit far outweighs any de minimis cost of implementing.
Well, we'll
the program.
find that out in appropriations.
Yes, we
when
will.
it goes to appropriations.
I'm just trying to.
Thank you, Assembly Member, but you should
effort.
save that for the next committee.
I'm going to ask the chair to co-present with me at appropriations.
We do not have a quorum, so I want to thank you if you'd like to close.
I think she wanted to add a final thought.
May I add
Yes.
The reason we recommended up to 10 colleges is because we know we don't have the capacity in the Chancellor's Office to manage this for a larger number of colleges. And so that's our way of managing the workload and trying to provide some direction. For example, one idea that's been talked about quite a bit, but it's not been implemented, is how you incentivize students to go full-time. Because if you go full-time, you're more likely to succeed, and you can perhaps benefit from a full financial aid package versus a part-time financial aid package, and they may not know that. They may be working hours flipping burgers when, in fact, they could get a full financial aid package. So those are the kinds of ideas
We
we'd like to
take that as a
explore.
close for the Assembly Member. That was
Thank you.
very good. Assembly Member Amiano. Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Senator Cedillo just moved the bill. I want to thank him for that. So. Mr. Chair and members, thank you for the opportunity to present AB 9, Seth's Law, regarding school bullying prevention. Research shows that students who are harassed at school frequently suffer long-term social, emotional, and psychological harm. In some cases, the emotional damage is so painful, a youth decides to attempt suicide as a means of solving their unsafe school environment. In California, we have safe school laws that prohibit discrimination and harassment at school, but lack of policies, complaint, and investigation procedures make existing law less effective. According to the National Education Association, each day, 160,000 students miss school because of bullying. This high percentage of bullying has real economic costs. A 2009 study found that because almost 30% of bullied students report missing school at least one day a month, the cost of bullying in California based on sexual orientation alone was at a minimum $39.9 million per school year. The most effective way to reduce the harm and financial impact is to create a school-wide culture of inclusion and respect for differences. Changing the current hostile climate on school campuses will increase student attendance and performance and save lives. AB 9 would require schools to establish policies to prevent intimidation and bullying, a process for receiving and investigating complaints of intimidation and bullying, ensure personnel are trained to recognize and intervene in bullying, and creating an appeal process for decisions. These policies will be posted and available for students, parents, and personnel. AB 9 draws upon tested approaches and best practices to ensure that schools have adequate policies and procedures in place to prevent discrimination and harassment and to respond to incidents quickly. I thank you for your consideration. I would urge an aye vote. I have two witnesses, Miss Wendy Walsh, who is the mother of Seth Walsh, and Diana Tate Vermeer from the ACLU.
Witnesses in support. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Walsh, and I am here today
Excuse
to
me,
honor...
can you just bring that microphone a little bit closer?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Wendy Walsh, and I am here today to honor the memory of my son, Seth Walsh. I want to thank Assemblymember Amiano for his leadership and support of all California students and young people. Seth told me he was gay when he was in the 6th grade. He was a wonderful, loving child, and I loved him for who he was. My son's school in Tehachapi, however, did not provide Seth with the support or protection that should be given to all our children. Anti-gay harassment was a part of Seth's daily life. He feared using the restroom or being in the boys' locker room before gym class. My pleas for help and protection for Seth fell on deaf ears at his school. One teacher even called him fruity in front of the entire class. The vice principal said, "Remind me next year." On September 19th, last year, Seth could bear no more pain. I found him hanging from a tree in our backyard. He passed away after 9 days on life support. A note Seth left upon his death expressed love for his family and his friends, and anger at the school for bringing you this sorrow. I can't bring my son back, but the California legislature can make a difference today to protect young people across our state just like Seth, who are thought to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. I am proud to stand before you today on behalf of my son Seth and so many young people like him to urge the legislator to pass AB 9, Seth's law. Sorry. Schools need to take harassment and bullying seriously when parents and students tell them about it and when they see it and hear it on the school campus. Right now, state laws do not give enough guidance on how schools can prevent and address bullying. This law would give California schools specific tools to prevent and address the pervasive problem to create a safe school environment for all students. No mother should ever have to lose their 13-year-old child to intolerance and anti-gay harassment, especially in a place that should be providing them with an education and putting them on a path to a promising future. I am here in Sacramento to honor Seth. Not one more child should have to go through what my son did. No child should be bullied the way he was. Our state cannot wait for this law. Thank you to the members of the Senate Education Committee for what you are doing to make our schools safe places where every student in California can enjoy an education free of discrimination and harassment because of who they are. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your courageous and statement. Well, there's nothing that we can say that can minimize your loss. Hopefully, what we will do will be at least attributed to your courageous step, and there will not be others like your son in the future. We hope that.
Thank you.
Other witnesses in support.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Diana Tate Vermeer, and I'm the Racial Justice Project Director of the ACLU of Northern California. School bullying remains a real and significant problem in California. All students deserve a safe place to learn and to be supported at school for exactly who they are. This means that all young people should be safe from harassment and discrimination at school, regardless of the color of their skin, the place they worship, or who they love. Unfortunately, schools do not always have the tools or knowledge to adequately protect students, particularly vulnerable students. Youth today are being bullied based on protected classifications. For example, in 2009, California's 7th graders were asked how many times they were harassed or bullied because of race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, gender, perceived or actual sexual orientation, or disability. 33% of our 7th graders responded that they had experienced such harassment at least once in the past 12 months. In addition to the human cost of school bullying, a recent study that Assemblymember Anamiano cited has a conservative estimate of a $39.9 million loss loss each year due to school absences, and that's based it only on LGBT students and does not consider the larger and greater extent of bullying that occurs in our schools today. AB 9 would give schools tools to prevent and address bullying in order to create a safe school environment for all of our students. The most effective way to reduce bullying is to create a school-wide culture of inclusion and respect for difference. In addition, the most effective way to address instances of bullying is to discipline bullying behavior by using alternatives to suspension and expulsion that teach kids the consequences of their actions and appropriate behavior while keeping them in school. Too often we forget that these are children and young adults who are still developing and learning. Taking steps to reduce and address bullying in a manner that minimizes the loss of class time is essential to improving academic performance and graduation rates for both the targets of bullying and the bullies themselves. We look forward to continuing to work with the Senate and the Assembly to ensure that AB 9 reincorporates alternative discipline and accountability measures to ensure that we are creating schools where students are educated in a safe and inclusive environment. AB 9 protects all vulnerable student populations, including racial minorities and students with disabilities, from bullying at school. We are proud to sponsor this bill and urge your support.
Other witnesses in support? We have lots of witnesses, so just be brief.
Good morning. My name is Isaiah Biceri. I'm a graduate of Glendora High School and freshman at UCLA this fall. Early in school, I encountered kids who were different, and most of the time, they didn't find this to be a good thing. I was the one who was different from them. Most painful was my experience as a freshman. Still getting acclimated to high school, I thought I was quickly making friends. During this time, I started to notice that my friends repeatedly posted homophobic comments about gay celebrities for no obvious reason. It wasn't until a true friend was kind enough to let me know that with each celebrity reference, they were humiliating me behind my back. Their primary means of degradation, my sexual orientation that was still very private at that point. I was devastated. I retreated into my studies and became very antisocial. I suffered for weeks and contemplated suicide, feeling like I had no place to fit in. Fortunately, a close teacher of mine found out about the incident and got the issue somewhat resolved, but if she hadn't, who knows what could have happened. Even though the gossip stopped, I never got an apology, and the bullies never got nothing more than a warning. I never knew I had the right to be protected from those targeting me because of my sexual orientation, and because of this, I could have potentially ended my life. Seth's law would have changed all of this. It would have strengthened my school's anti-bullying policies and given me the knowledge to defend myself, the knowledge that every student deserves. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that personal story. We've been touched by that. Other witnesses in support?
My name is Lisa Berry, and my son, Michael Joseph Berry, was a victim of a peer abuse-driven bullycide on his 17th birthday when he shot himself at Mariloma High School because he was perceived to be gay. We need strong protection for our kids. They are our future, and it is absolutely unacceptable that our children are dying. For the rest of my life, my child's birthday is also the day he died. He went and asked for help on 5 separate occasions. He followed the rules. He did what he was supposed to do, and it fell on deaf ears. And the kids who tormented him and made his life unbearable created a hell for him. They were able to graduate. Their life goes on. We need to protect our children. It's as simple as that. I support AB 9, and I ask you to do the same.
Again, thank you for your very sincere and sharing with us your personal tragedy and pain. Hopefully, out of this, out of your testimony, some good will come, and we will do something.
I hope so. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Matthew Bunch on behalf of Equality California. We're proud to be a sponsor of this bill.
Thank you.
Carolyn Laub on behalf of Gay Straight Alliance Network, proud to sponsor this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elena Perez with the California National Organization for Women in strong support of this bill. And to step back momentarily and simply speak as a mother of a child who belongs to more than one marginalized group, this bill really does protect all students. And I cannot understand why any loving parent would not want to see children protected.
Thank you.
Charlotte Newhart with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers in strong support.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and members, Monica Miller on behalf of the Jewish Public Affairs Committee of California, as well as the Anti-Defamation League in support. Thank you.
Pam Bacilla on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District and the Oakland Unified School District. We believe this is a reasonable measure to protect kids, and we're in strong support.
Sabrina Means on behalf of the California Faculty Association in support.
Carolyn Kim on behalf of Public Advocates in support.
Jeanette Saripatin on behalf of the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, also in strong support.
Rebecca Gonzalez with the National Association of Social Workers, California chapter in support.
Patty Scripter, California State PTA, support.
Monica Nestrosa, San Diego Unified School District, in strong support.
Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project in support.
Terry Burns on behalf of the California School Counselors Association, strong support.
Ernie Silva, Sayatech High Schools, in support.
As a student that attempted suicide and received anti-gay harassment and death threats my sophomore year and had to wait until I was a freshman in college to get any resolve, I'm in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition?
Good day. Michael McDermott, men's civil rights anti-misandry advocate. I'm a graduate of the McGeorge School of Law with distinction 2003, and I'm here to oppose this fear-hyping bait-and-switch scam designed to strengthen the already ferocious radical gender feminist homosexualist bullying that goes on in the pathetic farce of our educational system. I have a written submission that you should all have a copy of, starting with the top document talking about the group known as Dykes Taking Over, a rape gang targeting girls in grade school bathrooms. And if you don't believe that dykes exist, you can always look at the second page. The annual San Francisco Dyke March will take place on next Saturday. It bans male citizens from the streets and is tax subsidized.
Could you please refer to the bill and not to other issues?
Well, I'm giving you background on it, but yes,
but
indeed.
We'd like to focus on the bill.
Okay. Then the bill seeks to put a group of homosexualist bullies to continue the programs that already exist. It is untrue that there is a regime that discriminates against the feminist homosexualist activists in school. Instead, it is the male minority. I give you this example. A picture of a male with a pig growing out of his head. The caption, "I am a lying sexist, cut open my head, drag out the pig and butcher it." That's the type of tolerance training which already goes on in our universities, which this bill is going to increase. I remind you that Jennifer Beeman, the head of the University of California's violence protection system, was arrested and is now convicted of not only falsifying violence against women statistics, but of embezzlement and other things. This is a gravy train. They want to bully you into giving them more money to bully others so that their agenda, the radical leftist, gender feminist, homosexualist agenda of misandry, the hatred of men, masculinity, and normal heterosexuality will be supreme, and there will be no one allowed to stand up to it. It's a thought crime, thought policing bill, and should be shot down as a disgrace to the educational system, which is actually pretty much disgraced by itself already.
I take it you're in opposition. Other witnesses in opposition? Any member? I just want to say that besides the very powerful and touching testimony, I really support this bill for a variety of reasons, but one of the major reasons is that I think that this bill approaches the issue from changing the culture, the policies and procedures which will reach all students, not just targeting individual students that, where we deal with specific bullying, but we're really changing the culture of the school. I think that is the most appropriate level to be working at. I compliment you for not only your work in this area, but bringing a bill to us that really looks at institutional change versus just individual change, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I would like to have a motion on the bill, but we don't have a quorum. I know everybody's going to want to do that, but we don't have a quorum, and I will let Senator Vargas and Senator Alquist kind of discuss who is going to move the bill when we have. When we have a quorum? Would you like to close?
Yes, on behalf of many, I want to thank you for your consideration and deliberation. And the issue is endemic and does apply to all of us. Some of us who not only were bullied, but sometimes bullied, let's face it, with peer pressure. And I think this is a very, very good tool and an endorsement by the state that it has to be more than tolerance. We have to work towards acceptance, and that young people who do bully have a whole set of issues themselves, and we would hope that this bill would also embrace programs for them and their parents. So I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. Who's Hayashi? Assemblymember Hayashi. No, I want to. We have so many bills. I just want to.
Just no. So I had some suggestions.
And let me just see. The amendments here.
It just kind of the scope of the advice too. She wants to keep it broad. The other amendment would say districts are liable for ensuring that outside groups comply with this, but she thinks she's fine.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask her to. Okay. Assemblymember, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Good morning. I'm very pleased to present AB 25 today. Over the past several years, there have been many media reports and important scientific studies on the effects of head injuries in professional and youth sports. And among the issues discussed in these reports is the extent to which players, especially young athletes, return to the game too soon after a concussion. And because the young developing brain is more sensitive to trauma, concussions sustained by young athletes have the potential to be more damaging. AB 25 will protect young students in several ways. One, the bill requires that athlete who is suspected of sustaining a concussion or head injury in an activity to be immediately removed from playing. It also requires the athlete to receive written clearance by a licensed healthcare provider trained in the management of concussions to return to play, and it also requires a concussion and head injury information to be shared with parent or guardian each year prior to initiating practice or competition. This is an important measure to protect students. I have with me today the sponsor of the bill, representing the NFL, Andrew Governor.
Thank you. Chair, members of the committee, the consultants, I appreciate you working with us on this important bill. On behalf of the National Football League, we are pleased to sponsor AB 25. AB 25 will increase concussion awareness and safety for parents and young athletes that play organized sports in California. The NFL has taken a lead role at its level with the NFL players and believes that it should take a lead role with youth athletes across the country. Ultimately, the NFL believes that the medical decisions by licensed healthcare professionals should take precedence over the decisions of coaches and players. AB 25 will better protect students by ensuring that public school sports programs and other after-school youth sports programs played on school grounds will take the necessary steps to protect the health and safety of our youth. For that, I ask for your support and your aye vote. With me today is Dr. John D. Fiore, professor of sports medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, and he's also the team physician for the Bruins football and basketball programs.
Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to discuss this very important issue this morning. I think more importantly, as a sports medicine physician who's treated hundreds of concussions over my 18 years as a team physician, and I've seen some of the negative effects that can occur from these, I think it's very important that we're all considering this bill today, which I think will help to increase the recognition of concussions and head injuries in the young athletes in this state. I think, as we all know, concussions affect millions of young athletes in the U.S., and that's been a growing concern. I also think there's been an increased concern, given the recent medical literature, about the long-term effects, including neurocognitive decline, depression, and also chronic encephalopathic effects. And this has been recently documented in the scientific literature. And I think while these issues have received increasing attention amongst our collegiate and professional athletes, we have concerns about our younger athletes who are more susceptible to these kinds of injuries and more likely susceptible to the more serious consequences that can occur. And so while the collegiate professional athletes typically have well-trained medical professionals attending to them, it's not easy for young athletes at the high school or younger levels to have access to care that is able to properly diagnose and treat these injuries. So while we can't prevent these kinds of injuries, I think it's clear that we can improve our recognition and the monitoring of these injuries, and particularly with respect to the young athletes. Return to play is a big issue. Their ability to recover from these injuries is much more prolonged than what we see in adults, and so therefore we must be very careful not to apply the same strategies in terms of return to play, and I think this bill will help to address that. So further, I think it's even more noteworthy that this bill extends the concern and standard beyond high school interscholastic athletes and tries to extend this into children and other young adults who are participating in club sports and community-based activities where there is a significant risk for these injuries. And currently, there is really no standard. I think overall this bill will help greatly to address several specific issues, including the underreporting of symptoms related to concussion, which is really prevalent amongst athletes who feel it's a badge of honor to continue to participate with an injury. I think the symptoms reporting is very important, and that this bill will help to encourage not only the youngsters themselves, but their parents and their coaches to bring these issues to the attention of the school and also, more importantly, to their own physicians. And I think it's important to remember that children are not little adults, especially when it comes to these sorts of injuries, as has been mentioned about how these injuries affect young brains differently because their brains are developing and they don't respond the same way. So I think there are several features of this bill that are really worth considering. And I would say to you, I often get the question as a team physician at a high level, do you treat your starting quarterback any differently than you treat a reserve? And with these injuries and any injury, we really don't. We approach these injuries very seriously, and we treat all of our athletes the same way. And I would certainly hope that the state would want to extend that not only to our high-achieving athletes, but also the athletes that are developing and trying to move on to other careers as they grow and develop. So I'm really happy to be here to help support this bill this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Deborah Matos, representing Southern California University of Health Sciences, a chiropractic university in Whittier. We have classes in the training of this for many, many years. It's a WASC-accredited university. We've participated in these school physicals and been chiropractors on the scene for many of the schools and the Olympics as well. So we strongly support this.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Pam Bachilla on behalf of the Alameda County Office of Education and the San Francisco Unified School District. We're in strong support. We believe this doesn't create any new liability issues for districts, and it protects kids.
Charlotte Newhart with the Directors of Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health in the counties in strong support.
Good morning, Senator Lowenthal, members of the committee. Nancy Lacoste, I'm representing the California Interscholastic Federation, and their executive committee did take a support position on the bill. As noted in the analysis, they currently have a statewide policy in place, and most school districts, the high school level, already are in compliance with this. Thank you. Mr. Chair and members, Monica Miller on behalf of the California Chiropractic Association, and we're in support. Thank you.
Patty Scripter, California State PTA, in support.
Are there any other witnesses in support?
Good morning. Lynn Fox on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers in support of the bill. We think it provides some protections for students that are necessary and will help them have healthy brains so they can learn in the classroom.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses, any more witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Sandy Silberstein, representing the Riverside County School Superintendents Association. And we want to start by saying that we want to support this bill. We think we can if some of our concerns are addressed, and we think they're very addressable. We have three primary issues. The first one is that we think the bill doesn't fully protect kids, and that we absolutely think has to happen. The reference in the bill to allowing a student to return to play based on the clearance, written clearance from a licensed healthcare provider doesn't exactly conform with what CIF requires. CIF requires in Bylaw 313 that it be a licensed healthcare provider, but then goes on to reference clearly that that should be an MD or DO that is trained in concussion management. We're simply asking that you include that to conform with CIF bylaws. We think it provides more protection, awareness of concussions across healthcare providers. We think it's a very broad definition. It would be very difficult for a school district to manage if a parent came back and said, this doctor here said my child can come back in. We don't know who that is. If it was a medical doctor or DO, we could keep a list of those people. We would know that they were authorized to do it and that they had the training. The second issue is that we think that it's important to include not just youth club activities that are held on school site campuses. Interestingly, most of those kinds of club sports no longer are held on school sites, and that's because we tend to use our fields. And so the majority of club sports in our communities are held at parks and recs, city and county parks. We'd like to see those protections extended to those entities that do those activities when they're not on our sites as well. And finally, the third issue is the liability issue. We think there is a liability. We got a legal opinion from our attorneys who said, yes, they believe there's an extended liability here, but that we can fix it by putting very specific language in there that says that districts shall not be held responsible or liable when we collect and maintain a record that says that this outside entity did comply but did not review it or check it out or make sure or go through the process of ensuring that they did everything they were supposed to do. We don't have the ability or the expertise to do that, and we need to be held harmless from that liability. And with those amendments, we could actually go into support on the bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Frost, representing the Riverside Unified School District. We would concur with the comments of Ms. Silberstein. We believe that we have shared language with the consultant related to liability. We would like to support the bill, and thank you for the opportunity.
Are there any other witnesses in opposition? Let's bring it back to the... Oh, there's one more coming up.
Good morning. Pamela Gibbs for the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We actually do not have a formal position on the bill, but we appreciate the author's efforts in protecting athletes. We'd like to work with her on the liability issues that we've heard, and our office is considering supporting the bill as we move forward.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses? Let's bring it back. Assembly member, there are two issues that I'd like to raise that were raised in the analysis. In general, I think we are very supportive of the bill. And what I heard in all the testimony so far was young athletes, organized sports, after-school sports, the focus on athletics. And we support that. And we understand the bill extends what is the CIF's requirement, and even goes much further beyond, which is just high school, to all grades in school. The question is that the bill requires any group that uses school facilities, and I'll read it from the analysis, and we recommended an amendment, and I'd just really like to hear your point on this, that any group that uses school facilities or grounds for supervised recreational activities to comply with the policies for the management of concussion and head injury established. The problem is the bill appears to apply to groups such as sports leagues, which we support, when you do sports leagues, any sports league in that. And after school programs, but it's not clear what it says. All supervised recreational activities, which could be Girl Scouts on it with it. We would like you to focus on really what all the testimony was, athletic ability, to really limit it more so that any group that is seeking to do some kind of recreational sports, not even sports, recreational, supervised recreational activities, focus on those that really have to do with sports activities. And so that groups that are just using the school, which are now swept up in this, are not, that really are not, we don't believe, are the intention of this bill. We'd like you to, if that's possible, to work. And the other issue that was raised was we believe that what the comments from the folks from Riverside, that districts, if they collect these statements, if a group says, yes, we will comply, that it's really, the school district is not liable for that. As long as they collect that, they don't have to make sure that everything goes on. It's really the responsibility, once an outside group uses school facilities and says, yes, we will comply with all the things in this bill, and that it's not really up to the school district then to have to ensure that they are complying. They're the ones that are liable, not the school district, if they say they will comply. And we would like you to at least work, we would hope that you would work with our committee to address these two issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Absolutely. And your committee staff have been wonderful, just giving us heads up with respect to some of the recent opposition to the bill. Just to be fair, I just got this letter from the Riverside, and we just received this.
We would just like you to work with our committee as it moves. If you conceptually agree that we need to tighten up both the liability issue and to really focus on sports activities that are out there.
And I'd like to have thank you. I'd like to have the sponsor respond to that point. But I also want to mention that Alameda County Board of Education and San Francisco Board of Education, I mean, they're county board of educations that are also in strong support of the measure, and they don't interpret the liability issue the same way that the Riverside is. And so, you know, we would take your lead and obviously your expertise on this, and certainly willing to work with you. But I'd like to have
again, I would like to hear, but we are interested in strengthening the bill, not leaving school districts at risk.
Andrew Governor, again, on behalf of the NFL. Chair, I appreciate that. Let me take the liability first, and I'd like the doctor actually to take the first question. In terms of liability, we don't think there is, and while we're willing to work if it's necessary on amendment, we don't think this one is. Basically what they're saying is we want to accept the paperwork, but once we accept it, we don't want to have liability if it's, not real? I looked up Riverside Unified School District and looked up other policies, and I have it in front of me. Right now, they request proof of insurance. If you're a lifeguard and you're doing pool activities, they want certified copies of lifeguard, first aid, CPR cards. Do they check now? Do they verify the insurance now, or do they just accept it? And so really what they want, and we don't think the bill is that difficult, we say all they have to do is file a statement of compliance.
That's all we're saying.
But that's all the bill does now, and so.
But it doesn't really clarify who's liable. I think that we really want to deal with it, though, those districts who accept the data.
They want, their amendment actually is they don't want to be liable for any injury on the grounds when they failed to collect or maintain the statement of compliance. So really what they're saying is if we didn't collect the data that the bill, if we didn't accept the compliance statement that the bill says we have to accept, then we're liable. Well, yeah, if you don't accept the paperwork that people have to file to apply for recreational sports activities.
Thank you. We don't want to get into an with let the consultant really say what the committee's concern was.
I generally agree the bill's not specific about what the responsibility of the school district is, generally besides accepting the statement. My suggested amendment was to just have a broad statement that the district is not responsible for ensuring compliance and not liable for the outside group's compliance. The amendment specified in the letter from the opposition, I ran past the Judiciary Committee staff. They thought would be problematic, and if we accepted that, the bill would probably be referred to Judiciary. They suggested if we wanted to take our amendment, that may be sufficient and not be pulled to their committee. So,
I mean, we're willing to work with you.
Thank
but again,
you. We will work with you.
Okay. If we can find an agreement.
We will work with you, or we'll pull the bill back to committee.
Fair enough. The doctor can answer maybe the after-school question.
Okay, the other question about limiting it to sports activities, and rather than any single kind of supervised recreation, or which could be just people meeting on, so to limit it to anything that has any risk at all. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is you're trying to address those activities which would create some risk.
That's right, and
I
we
think
agree with that. That's all, and we think we applaud you for that. But to ask, it just raises some gray area, and we'll work with you in identifying anything. We just want to make sure that any kind of supervised recreational activity that has nothing to do really with organized sports may not be.
And I guess the question is, do you not want, if the Girl Scouts are organizing a soccer game?
Well, then that's a sports activity. We're just talking about Girl Scouts seeking to use after school for Girl Scouts activities could be considered in the definition of a supervised. We just want to clarify that definition.
It depends on the scope of the activity of the organization. Right.
And we will work with you, Assembly Member, on that amendment too.
Thank you. Thank you for all your efforts. Appreciate it.
Other members, Senator Liu.
Well, I too am concerned about the licensed health care provider and whether or not you would accept the CIF definition because it moves toward more definitive a doctor or I mean, who is a licensed health care provider that you would be okay with head injuries?
Right now, we're actually scope neutral. The NFL's position around the country, it's up to each state to determine the scope of practice for its professionals. All we do is reference what that scope is in the state. If the legislature would like to debate the scope and who has the ability to do it, you're more than welcome to. But in this bill, all we're doing is following what current law is.
Would you be opposed to accepting the CIF recommendations?
They already have the ability in school districts locally and independently to make those decisions as well. So, for instance, some school districts,
Correct,
I believe Riverside.
But to be more specific about it being in the bill?
We would prefer not to get into scope battles and to make it licensed healthcare providers and keep it as is. They have the decision to do that as well currently.
Issue with that, so it's just.
Just before we go on, let's have we do have a quorum. Let's have the secretary call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Here.
Lowenthal here. Runner. Alquist. Here. Alquist here. Blakesley. Hancock. Here. Hancock here. Huff. Liu. Here. Liu here. Price. Here. Price here. Semidian. Vargas. Here. Vargas here. You have a quorum.
Any other members? Senator Alquist.
I do happen to be very supportive of the bill. And I'm also wondering why, though, you're not really considering having it be a doctor. I mean, we're talking about traumatic brain injury, concussions. Or what does the doctor think about what I just said?
Well, I think this is a good point. I think some of this gets into areas beyond medical expertise. But clearly, I think that in the interest of the health of the children, whoever is examining these, whether it's a physician, MD, or DO, they should be someone who has experience. And so it's hard to necessarily say that even if you are talking about physicians, MDs, or DOs, that you can't make the statement that all of them are qualified to assess and treat these injuries. So it really needs to be someone who has some experience with this, regardless if they're an MD or DO, or if they're an athletic trainer, for example. Some athletic trainers, in my experience, have a much greater knowledge base and understanding of concussions than a lot of physicians do.
I mean, it might be
MD and DO, but I just think that piece needs to be refined a little bit because healthcare provider could really be stretched to mean anything, and anything may not be appropriate. I'm just saying this is one area maybe you need to look at a little more.
Well, actually, I think we have the reason why we've stated that it is a licensed healthcare provider as opposed to a physician or a doctor is because current law allows certain healthcare professionals to be able to perform certain functions under the supervision of a physician. So, you know, while physician assistant is not a doctor, physician assistant scope of practice may allow the person to give clearance. You know, chiropractic. I mean, there are so many other professions that we can't really go into because, you know, they all have different scope of practice within their profession. And so we didn't want to limit it to just a physician because right now, you know, in order to play sports, you have to have medical insurance. You have to have health care coverage. And so if you go to a pediatrician, may not be head trauma specialist, but could say, look, you know, you're clear to go and you're okay. And so we wanted to leave that open. And as long as they're complying with the state law within scope of practice, we feel that, you know, the bill is adequate in terms of protecting kids. So.
Just to add on, it may be that it's MD and DO. I'm wondering, is CIF here? Could they respond to this? What they think?
You mind if I just
go right
I
ahead?
I just was referencing this because I had asked the same question that you did because I had seen the CIF's version of this and I wondered about this. And in reading this, it says licensed healthcare provider trained in the management of concussion, acting within the scope of his or her practice. So I think that gets at the true intent of what you're trying to achieve.
Well, now we're getting to the core, I think. Okay,
that's
so
the key.
If CIF wants to.
So CIF, their policy doesn't address that in particular because it is a local control decision. The locals will decide what their own policies are going to be. So they're fairly silent, but they do recommend the DO or the MD in the information they have on their website. But it is not a mandate. It was not actually part of their
So you're
rule.
comfortable with it just saying healthcare provider?
Right, and there is actually a legal definition to that. I looked it up yesterday, and so it's pretty explicit of who those individuals are and the type of training, and there's a whole section of code that covers that.
And Assemblymember Hayashi, is your definition similar to?
Absolutely. We have been working together for 3 years now on my other concussion management bills as well. So we have, you know, we have considered all the experts, and licensed healthcare providers is the most comfortable and adequate definition that we can use. Just so, and because I chair Business and Professions Committee, I could tell you that scope of practice issues are. You know, are looked at vigorously. We you know, review those licensure requirements and training, you know, exams. And I think, you know, rather than going into specific job functions and titles, it is better to say that licensed healthcare provider would be most comfortable and would also indicate that they would have to practice within their scope, which is the state law, but not limit to particular titles or job functions.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Any other member? Senator Vargas?
I think it's an excellent bill. I know that there's some issues that are still being worked out, and I would be happy to move the bill.
The bill's been moved by Senator Vargas. Anyone else? I would just say that we will move the bill without amendments, but I strongly encourage you to work with the committee on the issues around whether, in fact, the scope captures things that you don't want to capture, we don't want to capture in it, that whether we can have that we're too broad, just not in terms of any of the sports activities, but just that we might be capturing others, that we at least address the issue about liability, and also that we address the issue about, not that we're saying that you have to do one or the other, but those be addressed between the author and the committee and hopefully resolved. And that, but if they're not, I'm going to reserve the right to call this bill back to this committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And certainly, just hearing the committee consultant read the proposed amendment out loud, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but certainly willing to work with you. And I'd like to see if that's actually needed, because I think there's some disagreements about whether that particular language is already in the bill or not.
Right.
So appreciate all your efforts, and thank you for your time, and thank you for moving the bill. Thank you.
Senator Liu? Well, we don't, you're right. The author, we are saying that the author makes a commitment on the 3 issues to work with the committee, staff, and those are the 3 issues are, as I pointed out, the liability issue, the scope of the bill, and also the issue about the licensed healthcare provider, those 3. The committee will, and we're not saying, we're willing to understand where we are on those 3, but unless members and the chair are satisfied with that, with those amendments, we will call the bill back to committee to deal with those specific issues. So with that, the bill's been moved. Would you like to close, or have you?
Thank you very much for your time, members. Thank you. Appreciate your aye vote today.
Secretary, please call the roll. The bill is due pass and to Rules Committee.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner? Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Blakesley? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Semidian? Aye. Semidian, aye. Vargas? Aye. Vargas, aye. 7 votes.
Bill has 7 votes, sufficient for passage, but we're going to hold the roll open for the absent members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have another bill.
AB 200?
AB 200, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. AB 200 will help students achieve fitness goals and encourage schools to provide outstanding physical fitness education by establishing the Health and Fitness Awards program. This program will recognize schools and school districts that demonstrate an increase in the number of students meeting the minimum standards on the state physical performance test. There's no opposition to the bill. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
I move the bill.
Bill's been moved. Witnesses in support.
Monique Ramos on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson. The superintendent believes this bill is important because it recognizes innovative physical education programs and health programs, which is important particularly in this difficult fiscal time to encourage and continue encouraging students to participate and improve their studies through health and wellness. The superintendent also would like to point out that this will be paid with entirely through private dollars. Thanks.
Thank you. Superintendent would have been here, but he's on a 400-mile bike ride. Yes.
Brian Spencer with the California Medical Association. We support this bill and pretty much any effort to help increase physical activity in our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Not hearing any. Is there a motion on the bill? The bill's been moved by Senator Alquist. Would you like to close?
Respectfully ask for an aye vote today. Thank you.
Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner? Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Blakesley? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Semidian? Semidian, aye. Vargas? Aye. Vargas, aye. We have 7 votes.
Bill has 7 votes, sufficient for passage. We're going to hold it open for the absent members. Assemblymember Fuentes. Welcome.
Mr. Chair,
AB
members.
124.
That's right, Assembly Bill 124. First, let me start by accepting the committee's amendments detailed in the committee analysis. Members, there are 1.5 million English language learner pupils in our public schools, which represents 25% of our total population here in California. Of these pupils, 1.2 million speak Spanish and 69% are enrolled in grades K through 6. It's crucial that these pupils have access to a comprehensive English language arts curriculum in order to achieve linguistically, academically, and ultimately professionally. In August of 2010, the State Board of Education adopted the National Common Core Standards in English Language Arts, otherwise known as ELA. However, it did not adopt all of the necessary documents associated with instructing ELL pupils in these revised standards. This bill establishes an advisory committee identical to the process of revising the current academic content standards. The advisory committee is charged with updating, revising, and aligning the ELD standards to the newly adopted Common Core English Language Arts academic content standards. This bill is essential to ensuring our ELL pupils develop the necessary skills to become proficient in English and academic subjects. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Witnesses in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Martha Zaragoza Diaz, and I'm representing Californians Together Coalition, and we are one of the co-sponsors in the bill. You have an opportunity today to vote yes on one of the most important bills impacting students who need to learn English. Why is AB 124 important? Last year, the State Board of Education adopted the Common Core standards in English Language Arts and Mathematics. Now the ELD standards need to be revised so they may be directly correlated and aligned to the English Language Arts California Common Core standards. The revised ELD standards are needed because they provide the critical development language benchmarks used to establish learning objectives and to monitor student progress towards the Common Core standards. The revised and aligned ELD standards will be used by teachers to match subject matter content to the appropriate level of language performance so that English learners have access to subject matter content while acquiring English. So the revised ELD standards will be instrumental for teachers to able to monitor the progress of English learners in both English and subject matter content. Lastly, the revised ELD standards are essential to moving all California students towards the Common Core standards in English Language Arts and ensuring English learners' attainment of English Language Arts Common Core standards. I urge you to vote yes on AB 124. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Frost, representing the California Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Language and the California Association of Latino Superintendents, also co-sponsors of this bill. We would echo the comments of Ms. Zaragoza Diaz and just add that the current English language development standards done almost a decade ago were completely inadequate when they were first developed. The data related to English language learners and how well they're doing clearly shows this. This is one of the most important bills that we can pass this year, and we urge your aye vote.
Thank you.
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association, very much in support of the measure. We greatly look forward to being able to implement English language development standards for our English language learner students so that they can achieve what we all know they're capable of. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Monique Ramos on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Torlakson. We are co-sponsor of the legislation in support.
He's still out there bicycling. Yes.
Good morning, Katie Valenzuela with Public Advocates in support.
Isabel Garcia on behalf of the California Teachers Association in support.
Sherry Griffith with the Association of California School Administrators. We're a co-sponsor and in support.
Dolores Sanchez representing the California Federation of Teachers in strong support.
Patty Scripter, California State PTA, support.
Sandy Silverstein, Riverside County School Superintendents in support.
Good morning, Ronald Coleman with the California Immigrant Policy Center, also here in support.
Virginia Strom Martin, Los Angeles Unified School District, in strong support.
Pam Bichilla, San Francisco Unified School District and Oakland Unified School District in support.
Pamela Gibbs, Los Angeles County Office of Education, in support.
Are there any witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Assembly member, I want to say I think the operative word that we've heard is this is a very important bill, and I urge members to support this bill. We've set up a very fair process consistent with the processes that we've used for dealing with the Common Core standards. English language learners are very important that they be provided the same opportunities that all students are, and so I urge an aye vote. Would you like to close?
I will associate myself with your remarks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and I urge an aye vote.
This is do pass two rules. It's been moved by Senator Price as amended, with the amendments taken as author's amendments. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Runner? Alquist? Blakesley? Hancock? Huff? Lou? Lou, aye. Price? Aye. Price, aye. Semidian? Vargas? You have 3 votes.
That bill has 3 votes. We'll place it on call for the absent members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members.
Senators, I always call you Senator Cedillo. You will always be to me Senator Cedillo. But for the people in the audience, this is an assembly bill. This is assembly members. What? Okay.
And never be offended to be called senator.
Thank you. We
Good
are
morning.
honored to have you back in our house.
I'm so happy to be here. I see we lost a little bit of our audience, but
There's still quite a bit here. If they're not, they're lined up on the side to support this bill.
thank you for this morning. It's a great morning for us who have been working on this issue. Can I have that article? Chancellor, can I have the news article? We're here to present AB 131. This is the California DREAM Act, and it starts from a proposition that California has an incredible investment in young men and women for the future of the state's economic health and for the future of the state's role as a leader in social justice in this nation. AB 131 is a bill that recognizes that in the year 2025, this economy of the 8th largest economy of the world is going to be missing 1 million people with Bachelors of Arts degrees and Bachelors of Science degrees. And the question is, where will those people come from? I suggest to you that part of where they'll come from is from this group, this community of students that are called DREAM students, AB 540 students who, as a matter of law, and I last time in presenting 130 articulated that law, its origins in the 14th or in the Equal Rights Amendment, its basis beginning in California in Mendez versus Westminster School District, 8 years before Brown versus the Board of Education. Our Governor, Earl Warren, heard that case and desegregated all other public institutions in the state of California just on the momentum and the soundness of that decision. That decision, as I said, served as the basis for Brown versus Board of Education. And then, more specifically, on that point, we have Plyler v. Doe, a Texas case that stated that immigrant students, in fact, do have a right and that it's in the best interest of the state and the nation to make sure that we do not create a subclass of residents who would be destined to illiteracy and would be a burden on our social welfare programs. Subsequent to that, we had Proposition 187 here in the state of California, and all of us recall this tremendous stress and tension that created for the state. We're fortunate that the Ninth Circuit Court, looking at Plyler, relying on Plyler, said that it was unconstitutional. And then most recently, the last time that I was here, we had the decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, and they decided that our AB 540 was legally sound and that they would not consider hearing a proposal to eliminate it. And then this morning, a case that was before a hearing officer in immigration, a new directive from the Obama administration that for these DREAM students that they should be considered the fact that they were brought here through no choice of their own, that they are in higher education, and that they have the prospects of becoming productive members, residents, and leaders of our community. And so we have a series of cases that establish as a matter of law that these students do in fact have rights. And so the question then before us is, since they do have rights, since we do admit them to our higher levels of education, since they have embraced our values, our culture, our language, then should we not then treat them equally and fairly as is consistent with all the previous decisions that have been laid out? And I say to you that the answer is a resounding yes. This bill will permit them to apply for Cal Grants. And for those of us who were here with Governor Davis, we recall that his efforts were to create higher education, make it affordable for the middle class of the state. And so we created these Cal Grants as an entitlement. And in setting up the Cal Grant program, each year we evaluate the number of high school students who would be likely to go to college. Do they meet the GPA requirement? Do they meet the financial aid requirement? And if they do, they are entitled to those Cal Grants. This bill sets that proposition forward and suggests and states that given the abundance of law that states that these students are equal to other students, that we should then permit them to apply for a Cal Grant. With that, I have witnesses, illustrious witnesses from the University of California, the Chancellor from Berkeley, a student, a leader from the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, and a list of other illustrious witnesses.
Thank you. Welcome to our committee, Chancellor.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. As you've just heard...
Can you introduce yourself for those that don't know you, Chancellor?
I'm Robert Bergeneau. I'm the Chancellor of the University of California at Berkeley. As you've just heard, AB 131 would allow for all students who qualify for a non-resident tuition exemption under AB 540 to apply for and participate in state-administered student financial aid programs. This includes the Cal Grant programs and institutional aid. As you presumably know, the University of California's institutional aid standard practice is to return about 30% of revenues raised through tuition to students in the form of financial aid. UC students are truly some of California's best and brightest. They are our state's future. This includes our undocumented students who need your help to overcome the obstacles of financing a public higher education. AB 131 is a critical component of ensuring that these students can attend UC and achieve degrees that allow them to contribute to the economic and social vitality of our state. Ultimately, of course, federal legislation will be required for these deserving students to receive citizenship. At Berkeley, it's been my privilege to get to know a number of these students, and let me give you just two examples. Many undocumented students do not realize their status until they arrive at university. One student whom I met first learned that he was undocumented when he transferred to Berkeley from a community college and applied for financial aid, and then discovered for the first time in his life that he was undocumented. This, sadly, led him to take on a full-time job, along with all of his studies, and the combination proved too much for him, and he had a nervous breakdown and had to drop out. Fortunately for him, he's one of the fortunate few that an outside agency became aware of his case and provided him the financial support he needed so that he was ultimately able to graduate. And I can tell you firsthand, I've never seen a person who was more proud of his degree. And he was an extraordinary young man and the kind of man California needs in its future. Another undocumented student whom I talked to quite relatively recently had been scraping by, but last year in May, his money ran out and he ended up on the streets. Lucky for him, a professor let him move in and sleep on his sofa during the period when he took his exams, and he thereby managed to pass. Unfortunately, the student was not able to register for this past academic year because the tuition had become too large for him to manage. And he could not look for help from his mother, who works in a sweatshop in LA. And I didn't know about this earlier, really unfortunate side effect of not being able to register at Cal for school last year, he also lost his health care, which came along with that. So he's now without a job, without school, and without health care. Our undocumented students, as illustrated by these two examples, are people with tremendous initiative and courage who are willing to work very hard for their education. Sadly, they are carrying burdens far beyond what we expect of our other students. They need and deserve our support. And in particular, I'd like to emphasize that since these students pay full tuition, they deserve the same return to aid that other students receive automatically. So again, I'd like to finish up by thanking Assemblyman Cedillo for introducing AB 131. I really appreciate his constancy on this issue. I also want to thank the Chairman, Lowenthal, and the other committee members for giving this bill your consideration. And I respectfully request on behalf of UC Berkeley that you support this bill. Thank you, and go Bears.
Thank you. Next witness in support.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Maria Luna, and I am undocumented. I sit here today to be yet another face for the California DREAM Act. I recently graduated from Sacramento State University, May of 2010, with honors, the Bachelor of Public Relations and Communications, and I aspire to be an attorney. However, my wishes of attending law school have been put on hold due to my lack of financial support. A little bit about myself. I was rescued to the United States at 3 days old. That's 3 days. I was actually abandoned by my U.S. resident mother who tried to hide her infidelity. And a day before she was about to give birth, she drove to the border and delivered me in Mexicali, Mexico, where she could no longer, keep me holded. So she delivered me there and abandoned me there. And she came back to the United States. My grandmother actually rescued me at 3 days old and brought me over to Los Angeles, California, and raised me as her own as an American child. Sadly, she passed away when I was 10 years old, and I met my biological mother, who was very abusive to me and who kept even a bigger obstacle to me, which was house abuse on top of being undocumented. Despite of all of that hardship, I managed to release my stress and put it into school, and I graduated from high school with a 4.3 GPA. I was accepted to all 9 universities, and I decided to go to UC Davis because they gave me a scholarship. Unfortunately, my mother, because I didn't have a bank account, she kept a lot of my scholarship money, and at 1 year into my college education, she had taken all my money, so I had to transfer to Sacramento State University. But I did manage to graduate. I worked part-time jobs, and I paid, in payments, and I was able to graduate. And I have traveled a road full of adversity. And there are many other dreamers like myself who have their own stories to share. And as different as they may be, some may have come here with their families. Some may have come here because they were abducted. We're all victims of someone else's crime, and we have to pay for it, unfortunately. The one thing that we all share is that we all live with daily indignities, blocked aspirations, and we are denied basic human rights, the right to education, the right to succeed. And we are told that because of our status, we are not worthy of it. So I would just want to say that the United States is my only home that I have ever known. It is here that I was given the opportunity. It is here that I became educated. America raised me. America adopted me. And ironically enough, I am inspired by the best of the American tradition. That's one thing that I learned, to fight for what's right, to fight for my education. And I believe that's the most patriotic thing that I could ever do, to give to my country, because this is my country. I'd like to close by saying that our status is not permanent. My status is not permanent. Opponents are not permanent, but education is. And that's something that I believe in, and I ask that you believe in our potential as undocumented youth, believe in myself, and I ask that you support AB 131. Thank you.
Thank you for that inspiring story. We're all honored to have you here and to listen. And it's really important that this legislature hears from those that are the most impacted, the students themselves. Thank you. Dave.
Wow.
I know
that's the reason to vote for this. So anything I can say will pale compared to the courage this young lady just showed.
But first, introduce yourself.
My name is David Rattray, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Education and Workforce Development for the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. And first of all, I want to apologize to this distinguished committee. I sprinted out of my house this morning without my suit coat. I can't believe I'm coming before you without a suit coat.
There, I have one in my office.
There you go.
I did the same thing last week.
I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and a bipartisan aye vote at that, for AB 131. We have supported the DREAM Act both in California and at the federal level. In fact, last fall, my colleague, Alma Salazar, who's our Vice President of Education, spent a week in D.C. trying to get our senators to push that Federal DREAM Act over the top. We live and breathe this every day because we know it's right. We supported AB 540, and through our Cash for College, we've looked in the eyes of so many students like this young lady and seen such incredible talent and human spirit that it's unimaginable to us that we can't get on the right side of this issue. It may seem unusual for a chamber executive and a business leader to come before you and talk that way, but we're pragmatic as well. I mean, we know that homegrown talent should never be wasted. And when we have talent like this young lady and so many others that are in this country and that have done everything we asked them to do, we told them to go to school and we said, get good grades and the American dream is yours. It's unconscionable that we get to them at 12th grade and say, oh, we didn't mean it for you. These are the young people that have the dreams to be part of this country, and they've worked hard and done the things we've asked them. It doesn't get any better than that. What's more American than the way this young lady just expressed her hopes and her commitment to herself and to contributing to our society? This is a country of immigrants. We all know that, and the business community is just a simple reflection of the same. It's the dreams and aspirations of parents all over the world for centuries that have brought great young people to this country so that we could make the very fabric of this society. I want to say that I also just want to pause for a moment and thank the Assembly Member Senator for his incredible, passionate persistence on this issue. We all owe him a great debt of gratitude for fighting on this issue session after session. And I've been honored to stand with him many times on this. Despite these kind of horrible fiscal times when we are doing things to students that none of us want to do, this is a moment where we can actually get something done right now. And I think you all know this, but I'll say the obvious, and the Assembly Member just said it. It took us sometimes years, decades, and even in slavery, a century sometimes to get it right. But the U.S. always eventually gets it right. We're going to get this done. This is going to happen. So the question is, do we make it happen for young ladies and young students like this today, or do we wait another 5 or 10 years? I say they only get to be 22 once. Why should we do that? So we need to do it today. With that being said, I would ask for an aye vote from all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. This is an opportunity for us to show California can show the way, not only for our students here, but for the country. They will watch what you do today. They'll watch what you do in the coming weeks. And so let's show the United States Congress, too, this is the way to go on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I'm scared. I'm Karen Zamaripa with the California State University. We're here in support of the bill and have been honored to work with former Assemblymember Marco Firebaugh and Senator Cedillo on this issue for the last many years. And I just want to attribute my remarks to the extraordinary things that have already been shared here today, and also agree that I'm honored to sit at this table with this young woman who is an inspiration to us all. So again, CSU urges your aye vote on AB 131.
Thank you, Karen. Go Beach.
Right on.
Other witnesses in support.
Good morning. Lori Najera from the California Student Aid Commission. The Commission is pleased to support AB 131 as we have every version of Assemblymember Cedillo's California DREAM Act. And I, too, came with an individual story, but we don't have time, and you need to hear from all these students behind us. So let me just say that as a state authority on student financial aid, the Commission receives not a week goes by. We don't get phone calls, letters, publication requests, web hits for from AB 540 students seeking help with financial aid to go to college. And when those requests come to my desk from your district offices, it breaks my heart to have to tell them that they aren't eligible for Cal Grant. and I give them some organizations that hopefully can help them out with private scholarships, and then I never hear from them again. Let's change that, and I do request respectfully your aye vote on this legislation.
Thank you.
Good morning. Ronald Coleman with the California Immigrant Policy Center. Here also in support of the bill. We are in strong support of this measure and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Francisca Garcia, here representing Pico, California, and also its local affiliate, Sacramento Area Congregations Together. Pico, California is a grassroots community organizing network representing over 450,000 families throughout California, and we are in support of AB 131 and hope that you will vote yes on AB 131.
Thank you.
Good morning. Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter. We support these students and we support this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Angel Picon. I'm here representing ACE, the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. We are a statewide organization representing working poor and working class communities throughout California. I am here in full support of the US AB 131, the California DREAM Act. We are in support of this bill because it helps the future of our Californians. Having been here as a young kid, undocumented, it's really a way to go. The landscape is changing, and we are asked for us to work together in order for us to continue on with the future of California. I've been here for many, many years as a young kid. I have worked as a director for a congressman. I have worked for an astronaut here. And there's many of us who are really wanting the opportunity to be able to have our dream be done here in California. So we ask for an aye support on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nicole Wurtelman on behalf of the City of Berkeley, also in support.
Thank you.
Olga Treviso on behalf of the Sacramento chapter, Lorenzo Patino Council of LULAC, League of United Latin American Citizens, the oldest and largest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. I represent our officers and our membership in stating that we lend our full support. We encourage a yes vote. It's vital to the economic advancement of the state of California, our future professionals, and the future of our economy and our nation depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Sandra Vargas on behalf of the California Catholic Conference in strong support. We urge you to please support and honor the dignity of and hard work of all our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Blair with the California Post-Secondary Education Commission in support.
Julio Gonzalez for California LULAC, for State Director Benny Diaz, who can't be here today. Again, California LULAC represents over 100 chapters across California, the entire state. Again, we encourage you, as we did with AB 130, to please vote aye on AB 131 because it is essential, again, to the communities across California. It is essential for the strength of California that we continue to educate our future leaders and visionaries, and that it is essential for those who are the underclasses to lift themselves out of poverty and strife. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Pam Bacilla on behalf of the Western Association for College Admission Counseling in support.
Thank you.
Erica Romero on behalf of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities in support.
Lisa Douglas representing AICCU, the independent nonprofit colleges and universities throughout California. We support this bill. Thank you.
Karen French representing University of California in support. Bonnie Slauson representing the Community College League in the 72 community college districts and the almost 3 million students in the community colleges. The League has long supported efforts, originally starting back with AB 540. We are also been in strong support of working on the federal level as well as the state level to enact the DREAM Act, and we urge your aye vote on this important measure. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Griselda Mitchell, and I'm representing El Concilio, and we're also here representing NCLR. In strong support of AB 131. Also a former undocumented student, and I shared my story with you guys last time, so I'm honored to be here with you again, and proud support of Mr. Cedillo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Saripatin on behalf of the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, also one of the original supporters of AB 540 and sponsors in strong support. Thank you.
Marlene Garcia with the California Community College Chancellor's Office in strong support of this bill, and want to thank the author for his good work on this important issue.
Thank you.
Good morning, Beatriz Martinez, in support of AB 131 with El Concilio, also affiliate of the NCLR.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Nancy Galvin on behalf of El Concilio in strong support.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Grisela Gonzalez, behalf as well as El Concilio, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ariali Baltasar, and I strongly support this bill from El Concilio.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Angel Jimenez, a Stockton Vice School Board member, and strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Leticia Gonzalez, and I'm support of this bill.
Thank you for
Good
coming.
morning. My name is Frankie Mann. I'm support of this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jose Moreno, representing El Concilio, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus County, in support of the bill. And we just ask, please, help the nation move in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Gustavo Medina with El Concilio in Stockton. I'm here in support of the bill, and I work directly with many marginalized groups, including undocumented, and they continue to push their children to strive towards improving not only their lives, but the lives of their within their community as well. So, strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Julian Ramos, and I support this bill.
Thank you, Julian.
Hi, Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of the Rio Hondo, San Diego, San Jose Evergreen, Peralta, and Los Angeles Community College districts in support.
Thank you.
Andrea York on behalf of FAC and the California Community College EOPS Association in strong support.
Thank you.
Tony Triguero, California Teachers Association, support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project in strong support.
Thank you.
Judith Michaels, California Federation of Teachers in support.
Thank you, Judith.
Freddie Campos with the California State Student Association in strong support.
Thank you.
Matt Bunch with Equality California in support.
Thank you.
Carolyn Laub with Gay Straight Alliance Network in strong support.
Thank you.
Isaiah Bisaria, student in Los Angeles in strong support.
Good to see you again. Thank you.
Monique Ramos on behalf of Superintendent Torlakson in support.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Irvis Orozco. I am currently a UC Davis student, and I am studying international relations. I just wanted to go ahead and let you know a little bit about my background. I came to this country when I was a few months old. My mom came here to work out in the fields throughout the Central Valley. She would travel up and down the Central Valley to be looking for jobs. We would come in and out. The last time I was in my home country, I was 6 months. I came and grew up here. I grew up in this region. I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school here. When I was 13 years old, my mom took me out of school to work out in the fields, where I worked for about 3 months when I was 13 years old. And I begged her to let me go back to school and to finish off. And it was an emotional time at that time, and I got involved working with a group out of Berkeley where I seen a lot of people from my ethnic background that were making it through, and it made me want to engage more in school. I graduated from Woodland High School, not too far from here, where I excelled in many different aspects. That same year, I was able to get into Berkeley, UC Davis, and UCLA. Unfortunately, I have been unable to finish my degree, and this will benefit me a lot because I will finally be able to finish off. This past weekend, Senor Cedillo was present with us at a gathering with the UCLA Labor Center, where we met with 100 other organizers throughout the country that are suffering through the same exact thing. And it is now up to us to stand up and say that we are unafraid, and we are here, and we have made this country, and we will keep on making this country. It's been an awesome experience to meet some of these streamers from throughout the country. We have 2 law graduates right now, one from UCLA that graduated, and then we have about 4 different students, undocumented students, that are going through the law school process right now. They're in law school. One of them is from Arizona, one of the states that we have seen has been pushing the drive for ethnic separation. And I want to be part of this process, and I want to go to law school because I want to help change this country and help better it. So thank you, and I hope you can all support this.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Joshua Golka with the California School Employees Association, also in support.
Thank you, John.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz representing Californians Together and also the California Association for Bilingual Education, and we're in support.
Thank you, Martha.
Jesse Ceniceros, President of Voters Injured at Work. We are strongly supportive of this bill, and we ask for your yes vote.
Thank you.
My name is Bernardo de la Torre, and I strongly support this bill. Sometimes it takes a little courage to do what is right. You have it.